Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, Sarah. I'm great, thank you. How are you? You're looking great.
Oh, thanks. You too. Yeah,
Ni-
I'm good. Thank you.
Nice weather over there, hey?
It is today. Well, it's sunny. It's a little bit chilly, but we are an island, so we had a bit of a heat wave uh,
I heard.
before lockdown was kind of lifted a little bit more. So that was lovely to I felt like I was in the south of France at one point, so that was quite nice.
Fantastic.
I could pretend I was, I was somewhere else. And what about obviously Thailand is
It's
pretty
still hot.
predictable.
We've moved into the rainy season now, which is great because it cools it down regularly. Yeah, so it's still hot. It's still in the 30s. 38 the other day. Got to 40 about 10 days ago. So it's hard work sometimes, but
Yeah, I know.
swings and
Never
roundabouts.
happy, are we?
Exactly. It's exactly the sun shines regularly here, which is
We always
always nice.
always
It's
like to
always
complain about something, especially well here the weather is a big topic, so we'll we'll
yeah.
we'll skip. We won't talk about it too much
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So I really loved our chat a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
and I got a great response. So the people who I share this with, all came back and said, "Oh, that was wonderful," and
good.
I hope some of them have gone on to join your meditations and
Yeah,
your groups and things like that. And I always do come back to that question, what would love do? Sometimes I don't like the answer
yeah. That's
because
probably the right one because your ego has to be crashed, doesn't it? When you ask it. And I had a just the other day. I had something came up in the morning, and with another person, that person has no idea that it pushed my button.
they never
But
do.
I'm aware enough to know that it's nothing to do with the outside world. It's always to do with me. But I go into blame first, as I did, but I don't take any action on it. And I just started asking the question, what would love do? And I sort of take it, because it's somebody who's close to me. So I take it a bit further and go, if I lost that person, this thing right now would be so inconsequential. It would be so ridiculously nothing. And that really helps me to get back to a loving space. And I know it's all my stuff anyway. So I said, where's the shadow in me? Where am I doing this? And as soon as I see it, the stuff's gone. And in this case, it was a man, and he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what was going on. He has no idea.
You've had you've had this complete experience,
Yeah.
and
And
you've had. I would say, how many times have people had an argument with somebody, and that person hasn't even been in the room?
exactly.
You've
Oh,
played
yeah.
out the whole thing inside your head. Well, if I'm going to say this, they're going to say that, and then I'll say this, and then they'll say
They
that.
think
Da,
that
da,
they
da,
are
da.
saying that to me, and don't they know, and blah blah blah. And the righteous stance comes
That's
from
it.
all we're doing, which I knew I was doing, was protecting myself from seeing something about me. That's all I'm ever doing when something hurts. If I throw it out and blame, I'm protecting my ego from seeing something within me that needs healing. But because my ego wants me to be right all the time, I project that out,
So
and so
that's really interesting that you bring that up because I run groups and little kind of courses and big courses and stuff as well. And actually, just this week, somebody asked me the question about ego, and from my understanding, we can't get away from having an ego. We it's part of who we are. So what's your answer when people talk about ego and oh they're you're coming from ego, and what's your sort of take on that?
yeah, it's a great question. The easiest way I think that to see it is when we're children and so much information comes at us, and we become emotional about things and we don't even understand why, from 2-year-old, well, even younger, so these, we get told off, or we get told no. It's probably for our own good. It might be even coming from a loving source, but internally it upsets us and we don't know why. And there's so much information that comes in, and it can't be dealt with at that age. And so we develop the ego, which essentially says you're okay. And it does it wholeheartedly to protect us from aspects of life that we just can't deal with yet. And the problem is that it continues to develop, and expand and protect us. It thinks it's doing us a favor. So it's not doing us, it's not a disfavor. It thinks I need to protect him from seeing this because it's too much, because that's what it's always done. And so, of course, the spiritual work is to get as vulnerable as you possibly can about who you are, and big egos, I might have said this to you last time, I can't remember, but big egos push my...
If it's worth repeating, it'll be repeated.
Okay, yeah, so when I see big egos, it bugs me. It really bugged me, obviously, because I have this big ego that I portray myself as better than it. It works... it works to protect me from intimacy because I'm afraid of people at a deep down level. So I come into this, I'm God's gift sometimes. And also I've not believed in myself so much so when I was younger that part also comes up to try and elevate me, but it's never authentic, you see. And so the more I crash my ego, the more I get clear about my authentic self. And of course, when I crash my ego, like right now, just admitting to that's a real aspect about me, then it's no longer an issue. I don't need to be anything to try and uphold myself and show a face in the world, because I'm clearly saying, yeah, I do have a big ego at times. And at the moment, I'm having more popularity than I've had. And so it's easy for my ego to increase and to elevate. I like it, but it's good for me because I'm in check. I keep, and it's great for me to express this to you also, because it brings me back down to ground, and gets me off that place. And I remember reading about Bono. His wife had said she won't let him in for, I think it was a month or 6 weeks after he's done a world tour, because he saw up his own arse, because he had millions of people, on his case.
Yeah, because obviously that's a lot of energy that you're receiving. I actually saw, I can't think of his name. I think it might be Stuart French. He was the I don't know if you ever watched Third Rock from the Sun.
No.
Oh, well, anyway, I remember being in Bangkok watching it. It was one of my favorite shows at the time. And obviously he's a grown-up now, he's an adult. But he did a TED talk, and it was really interesting because obviously as an actor, you're on stage or you're on screen or you're in an interview or whatever it is, and you're looking for that adoration, that attention.
Yeah.
And he made and I just thought it was really powerful. He talked about, instead of looking for attention, is how do you pay attention?
That's great.
Which was coming the other way. It wasn't about, right, look at me, look at me, look at me, which he said, obviously that energy that you're getting lifts you up, but it's not sustainable, because as soon as it goes, boom, you're kind of dropped from quite a height, from that. Whereas if you are paying attention, you're paying attention to yourself, you're paying attention to everything around you. In that moment, you're completely connected. So
that's it. It's perfect.
You're just
lovely
here.
analogy. Yeah.
I'll have to find that. I'll find that link and I'll put it underneath, because I just thought it was a really interesting take from someone who's, I wouldn't necessarily kind of gone, yeah, he's a guru, or he's someone I could go and kind of, but I just thought it was he himself had to kind of go through that battle with his ego, because he was very young when he started acting. So he, again, like that, had a lot of that attention.
When I look at the footballers, because for me that would be obviously not now, but what a job, what to play. I mean, don't get me wrong, the competition is monumental. So the guys are in the Premier League, they're great players, but all that money. But I often look at them and think it must be very difficult to pull the ego down, because they're so young, they're not developed at all, and they're getting massive amounts of attention, massive amounts of money. It must be a very difficult aspect of the whole deal, being a professional at a young age, in whichever arena you're in, but where you get celebrity status to that extent, where everybody knows you, at least in your nation. It must be very difficult to find your true self. Michael Jackson never found it. He defined himself via his crowds. He needed the attention from the people, because he was 5-year-old when it all started for him. He didn't know a guy. He didn't know himself without having all this adoration. It must have been very challenging. My gosh. Yeah.
So the ego is very fragile, really, is at the end of the day, isn't it? It's because it's not really built on solid ground. It is kind of an illusion. But I suppose we need that in order to be able to see ourselves and to grow.
Yeah, and you also need it when I go on stage and present myself, whether it's a stage on the webinar like this or a real one, I need my ego. I need the part of me to lift myself enough to be able to present what I've got to do in a way that is good. And, you know, for me, there's been a change. I could never have said this before because I didn't understand it now, but I have a real authentic desire to serve. And I've been serving for many, 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 many years, as you know. But it was all about me. I didn't know that. I would have denied it. I honestly didn't know it. I couldn't see it. It was just blind to me. But I was serving, but it was about me. It was what I was going to get from the service. But, you know, I had to go through that. I had to keep serving. Now, for whatever reason, I'm at an age and a time in my life where I genuinely want to serve. And of course, the reward to that is all of the things that I used to want when I was younger. But, you know, so the answer really is to get to a place where you are really putting, as you said, put attention into the moment and serve from that moment and help from that moment. And then for me, you know, when the praise comes in, that's when I get lifted, like, oh, look at me. And I've got to be careful then. I've got to bring it back down and get back to service, you know, because I feel great when I'm serving. It's well received and everything's beautiful in that place. And I think that, you know, the fall from grace is always there tapping on your shoulder saying, yeah, just watch, because it will. When the psyche says, no, you're gone offline there. This is all your elevated stuff, then I'm going to bring you down, and it will bring you down. And you know, if it's on a big stage, that'll be big, and that happens. We see that with business.
And I think, you know, in my kind of internal dialogue, which I have going all the time, and I'm always trying to figure things out, and I have two voices. I have conversations. Used to get locked up for that in the 50s, I know, but thankfully people realise we all have an internal dialogue of something. Maybe it's very quiet, but mine's quite loud. You know, is this thing about, you know, did the lockdown, did it make or break you? You know, what did it do? Because I think everyone has had their own personal journey through this. There's no, you know, I posted something which said, you know, everyone's saying we're all in the same boat, and then I saw a brilliant post which said, no, we're not all in the same boat. We might all be in the same storm, but everyone's in their own boat. Everyone's boat has different integrity. You know, I am in a little kind of, you know, castaway type raft, you know, with a bits of flotsam and jetsam that's blown up on the beach, and you've had to kind of tie it together, and it's not very seaworthy. Or are you in a luxury liner, you know, cruising through this and really hardly, you know, maybe getting even richer, which some people obviously have. And, you know, it's kind of whatever vessel you were in at the beginning, you know, really exactly. will have determined the journey through this. And for some people, they're not in a storm at all. They've been sitting very safely in a harbour somewhere. So I was just kind of, it's just a really curious thing in my head. It's like, well, I've had my own personal journey through this, for absolutely sure. I said it right at the beginning. You know, my first one of these I just said, I feel like I've just fallen off a cliff. I feel like I'm one of those cartoons where you're running. You're going, got loads of adrenaline, and suddenly you look down and you realise you've actually run off a cliff. A massive drop. And that's really what it felt like for me, that I kind of hit this bottom, and for a while I didn't actually hit the bottom. It took a few weeks really to kind of really crash, but it was awful. It was a horrible feeling. And I started doing these talks because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to talk to people around the world and go, okay, look, this is exhausting. It's exhausting to feel so fearful. It's exhausting to feel so angry, wanting to blame somebody, you know, and it's still looking for that, you know, well, who did this? Who did this to me? Who did this to us? And looking for, you know, oh, are the government doing the right thing? I think they're doing the wrong thing, and trying to find. And we kind of talked a little bit beforehand, and it's that thing of whatever your own perspective is, whatever your own narrative is, it's very easy to see, to accept anything that matches that, and then anything that doesn't, it's very easy to reject it.
That's exactly right. That's really the truth. That, you know, when you're firmly in one narrative about what reality is, you'll automatically attract everything that is related to that. And unfortunately, I see myself doing it. You know, I want to believe that to be truth because that's what I'm believing is happening. But what's happened to me that I've found really interesting and helpful for myself is I realized at one point that I looked at there's two narratives that I see that are playing. And one of them believes wholeheartedly what mainstream media and the government are saying, and that vaccines are going to be a necessary part, and the coronavirus is as dangerous as they've said it is going to be, and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. And they look at the other team, which is what this team would call the conspiracy theorists.
Tinfoil hats. I would say tinfoil hats.
Tinfoil hats, yeah. Tinfoil hats, and this side saying that there's a draconian type of government and evil that's trying to control the planet and blah, blah, blah. So, and this side sees this side as nuts, and this side sees this side as blind, right? Yeah. I looked at it and I thought, because I'm on one of those sides, and I got very upset, afraid, angry, all of negative emotions came for a long time, for about 4 weeks, and I couldn't sleep. And so I dropped the whole lot. I couldn't handle it. I stopped looking. I still had the side that I was leaning toward. But this is what happened to me is I realized that, I'll say the whole thing, the whole realization was that if I looked at the one race of humans as a collective race, we're just one. Yes, there's 7 billion of us, 7 billion of us within that one race, but we're just one race if we look at humanity. And humanity is operating from the mind. If you think about it, we've been programmed to live with this as our control center. This is where we look from life. And it's programmable. It really is. We've been sat in front of a TV, the majority of us, since we were babies, and we are told by the TV what life is and how we're told what to buy and what we believe in. And there's different versions of everything, so we have an opportunity to see what we think we like. But there's all of that's going on at the mental level. So there's what's called a collective consciousness. So if we look at humanity as one race, humanity also has one consciousness, and everything that happens within that, everything, every person, every act that happens within that one consciousness is part of the one consciousness. And what it represents is the way that the one consciousness thinks life is at the moment. Now, we came here purposefully to experience separation. I'm going to get back to that one consciousness, but think about it. You know, we are the life force energy that flows through the body. So the point of consciousness that I determine life from, make decisions from, make anything mean anything, that point of consciousness is life force. And by definition, life can never die, because otherwise it wouldn't be life, right? So we come here and we want the experience of finite reality and of separation, because that's not what we're used to. We don't know that. And so for separation to exist, we have to be in a physical form where things bang against each other because they're physically separate. So we set the whole thing up purposefully. We have a program in our mind that sees things, everything as separate. It's either night or it's day. It's a man or it's a woman. It's left or it's right. It's up or it's down. That whole thing. And the whole program goes on here, which perpetuates the illusion of separation. But it's an amazing illusion, and it's one we love to come here and see. We really do. We queue up to get onto this planet to have this incredible adventure of understanding the negative emotions, because we don't have them either. Sadness, fear, jealousy, anxiety, stress, all of that stuff, it doesn't exist where we're coming from. So we come and we get a first-hand, real experience of these emotional state. We also get to understand the process of manifestation, because it's finite. So we get to understand beginning and end. In our own life, we have our first breath and we have our last breath, and we get the entire experience of life and consciousness and understanding with every day throughout that journey. So we get to experience. It's an unbelievable experience. And because it's separate reality, there has to be those at the top with everything, and there has to be all the rest with nothing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be separate. There has to be a means to separate us. And by the way, that means is money. We all have a dollar sign on our shoulder, and it separates us all the time. We're most of the time inauthentic, because we have to learn how to survive. It's ridiculous. But unfortunately for the majority of people, they don't get to experience an abundant lifestyle because their emphasis is on, I've got to make the moolah, I've got to make money to survive. And because this illusion has been given to us so strongly, we buy it. So, I mean, it's reality for us. And so we die because of money. We are sad because of money. We have negative emotions because of money. And so it's really in the way of our abundant existence. But those with lots of it, it's a very addictive thing to have, because tremendous power comes with all of that money. Tremendous, so much
money,
so that
money is a form of energy at the end of the day. It's just
really
one form. Everything is energy. We know that from quantum physics.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
And again, of course, nothing means anything other than the meaning we give it.
And we've all given this money a very powerful meaning. And those at the top have the power to manipulate what is said on the internet, what is said on the media, and lots of other things, you know. But so I'm not in the blame there. It's just what I want to express here is that we all signed up for this. So it doesn't matter, you know,
where we are on the scale.
Bezos, Bill Gates, and Soros, and all these guys at the top. They're supposed to be there with all that money, and everyone else is supposed to be wherever they are with whatever money they have and whatever life experience, because we're here to experience separation. So it's a perfect dance. Now, in a person's own evolvement, especially in the spiritual or personal development world, what we essentially do is we look into the unconscious and we bring disharmonious energies up, and we bring them to our conscious mind. And when we see them consciously, we then expand around the whole thing, and life is easy because we've brought something that was unknown to the known. So life gets bigger because it's no longer an unconscious vibration. So if we look at the one collective consciousness that is humanity, the very same thing is happening right now. The very same thing. We're all collectively creating reality. And for the first time ever in history, for the first time ever, because of the virus, the coronavirus, we connected because everyone looked at the same thing at the same time. But they looked here. They looked from the mental arena. So because they looked where the narrative, the story is going on, they didn't see that there's a real connection amongst humanity. We all came together because our focal point was exactly the same. So that's the first great thing. The other thing is, what we know is there's a lot more light or higher levels of consciousness on the planet. How do we know that? Because we've brought a virus, whether you believe it was instigated, accidental, biological warfare, missile, whichever way you think it started, whether you believe it to be a real virus or just a flu virus, or whether you believe the stats or you believe there's draconian, it doesn't matter. What we have all experienced is a lockdown. We all did it. We've all followed that narrative and lockdown, and we've got a virus that we're all looking at. Doesn't matter where we think it came from. So we've brought this virus. Now this virus, what is it? What are we seeing it's doing? It's separating us. But here's the thing, Sarah, it's always separated us. It was just doing it at the unconscious level. It's the means of the separation, and we've brought the means of the separation to consciousness. Now, this is the key point. If you stay in the narrative, we can't solve it. So let's look at the mainstream media's narrative, the people that believe that there isn't a conspiracy, and that everyone who's in that area is looking after us, and the vaccines are good for us, and all of that sort of stuff. Let's look at that. The bottom line from those people's point of view is that they're afraid for their race. Now let's flip over to the other camp. And this camp thinks that this is draconian, blah, 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 and we're going to lose our freedom and all of that sort of stuff. And the bottom line in this camp is that they're afraid for their race. So this is the one common denominator that we must look at. But we must get off this narrative, because all it does is what has always happened, which is we're separate from each other. Look how the illusion works perfectly. White skin, black skin, Asian skin, brown skin.
What's happening, yeah. Look what's come up. I mean, this thing has been around for so long, and now it's become...
It's been here forever. You know, the politics, the Democrats, the Republicans, the Conservatives, Labour, and everything else, right?
Separation. That whole polarization, isn't it? This is what I really stood back and went, everything is so polarized. It's so this or that. It's like, hang on a minute. there's got to be
never
something
been.
that's connecting all of us.
That's right. It's never been so apparent. It's a great thing. Consciousness is shifting. I believe there's only one way forward, and that is to a place where we come together with light. And the evil, if there is evil here, will diminish. It will, because light is here with us. So you've got to stop being so righteous. I'm not saying you, but I believe what worked for me is.
I went through a righteous couple of weeks. But I got very angry with the righteousness. That was the interesting thing. It was looking at the emotion, and that emotion kept telling me, hang on a minute, you've got to. I always say, excuse me, emotion is the compass, and we've got to pay attention to what is it pointing at. And if you're on your own and you're feeling something, there's no one around you, but you've got these thoughts and you've got these feelings. The question is, what do you need to look at that you're not looking at for yourself?
Exactly.
And if you've got these emotions,
what's going on for me? What am I saying?
Yeah, and if you've got these emotions and other people around you, it's because you're trying to get their attention and to communicate something. And when the emotion is ignored, it turns up the volume. So it doesn't matter whether you're on your own or with someone else. If you don't pay attention to it, it gets more and more and more, and then eventually gets to the point where maybe you explode and you say something you shouldn't say, you break down, or or people, breakdowns for me are always breakthroughs at the end of the day. It's not really about being leveled, it's actually about getting through illusions. But yeah, the emotion was really, really strong, and again, like that, I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking, what is going on? This is because my unconscious mind was going, hang on a minute, you need to have a look at something here or my super conscious, whatever it is, through the unconscious, was communicating something much more powerful. I just want to share something with you, and I don't think I said this to you before, but many years ago, doing one of your meditations when we ran New Beginnings together, and I think it was really, really early days of New Beginnings, and you were doing a guided meditation, and when I came out of that meditation, I was a fundamentally different person.
Really?
Because I lost my fear of death.
Wow.
And I can't explain exactly what I remember. The meditation, I remember the visualization that happened, but I remember coming out of that and going, that was really strange, because I didn't realize I had such a fear of death up until that point.
Gosh.
Now, I don't want to die a horrible death, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be in any pain. I'm not choosing death, but I really just thought, well, if that's where I'm going when this is all over, I really have absolutely nothing to fear. It was such a huge experience for me. So I have to thank you for that, because it was your meditation, it was the energy that you brought to that allowed my, my spirit and my soul to come out of that. And I think that's a big part of all of this, is that we're so afraid of dying.
I do. I agree with you. Absolutely.
That we're not really living, and this kind of, when we're in lockdown, we're stopping life from flowing. We're stopping everything. It's this complete paradox, isn't it, of trying to protect, but actually what we're doing is really, disconnecting from ourselves and the rest of the world.
And we're all human beings, and we love to be with each other. Essentially, we thrive on that. That's how
the human experience is not designed to be on our own.
No, we're not. So, but so as I was saying, that the common denominator being that we are afraid for our race, and it's a great point what you've said, that we've got to drop the fear of death, because we're gonna, you can't get out of here alive, and you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to. I don't understand these people who want to live forever. They don't know the truth yet.
I just keep saying, when I hear someone's lived to like 105, honestly, my reaction is this: could you be bothered? Could you really be bothered to be here that long? Because it means you're having even more of these experiences.
Yeah. Unless, I guess, unless you get to an enlightened, peaceful place. But anyway, I think that we're at a precipice of a new level of consciousness. So it's going to take some time. I've got this healing system that I'm using, but in any system where you bring more love into your body. So here's the thing, Sarah, we've got to get to a place where we start operating from the heart center. Because when I look from here, I see that you're the same as me. And I'll see that in any other human being.
Yeah.
When I look from here with all the judgment, you see, my tribe being English tells me that this is right and that's wrong. And then the next tribe says this is right and that's wrong. And we fight and we kill each other, and we're all afraid of each other. And that's just gone on and on and on. And I do think that some people take advantage of that, but because keeping us fighting each other, it's very easy to control us. You can obviously guess which team I was in, but I honestly don't want to go there, because I've got to the place where I realize, oh gosh, for this enlightenment to happen, there has to be a player for every different role. There has to be people that are playing all of the roles that they're playing for us as a race to wake up, because we've never, ever looked from a place of love. We've never consciously said, let's learn to love each other. This is not a new age hoodoo, voodoo, tin hat philosophy. No, this is a real thing, because we are love. We love love. It's the only thing we want. And when we come from that place, look, imagine this. I know this might be a way off yet, but if we didn't have money and we just decided to use our gifts and authentically say, I'm going to help as many people as I can. The reason my business exists is to help as many people as I can. If we all do that, right, and not use money, just give and help. Now, I can't see how yet, but let's just imagine a world where we respect each other. We learn from each tribe's greatness. I mean, it would just be an abundant existence. We wouldn't have this ridiculous fight, but we do sign up to come and experience separation. But what we are with at the moment is an opportunity to enlighten the planet. So when there's enough people that are coming from a place of love, eventually that will become the norm, and the planet will literally lift up to what's called a fourth dimension. Now, I know this sounds really spooky, but when we operate from love, that's literally a much higher vibration than the one we currently operate from in the mind. So we all lift up.
And there is research that shows positive thoughts have a higher frequency than negative thoughts. They've actually measured this, which means that negative thinking, that whole kind of fear-based, is literally heavier.
Yeah, literally.
It's a lower frequency, so it's heavier. It takes more energy to kind of move it. And we know that when we're down and when we're looking at things through that kind of lens of fear and separation,
it feels heavy, doesn't it?
It does feel heavy. You feel like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah. And so it's time to wake up and look. The first thing is to drop the righteousness around your story. I still lean that way, but nothing like before. I believe that's what's happening, but I also see we've got this unbelievable opportunity to learn to love each other. So the key point now is how to do that. And it's easy to say to the world, the answer, guys, is you just got to love each other. Right, that's dead easy. Not, so before that can happen collectively, it has to happen individually, which is what Gandhi said. He said, you don't need to heal the world. You just need to heal yourself.
Be the change. Be the change you want to see. Yeah.
And that's all we've got to do. And so whichever way you use or find to bring more light into your body, to bring more higher consciousness. One of the things I said last time was we talked about what would I do if I was love. That's one of the ways to bring love back into the body, and to realize you've got to take responsibility. As you said earlier, there's only me ever going on that I know of. I don't actually know anything from the word go to the last go. I'm the only thing happening. Now, I've got these people that I love in my life, and I've got my friends, and I've got reality, and there's roads that I drive along, and so it's all going on there, but I'm the only actual thing that I know is happening. So I'm the only one I have to sort out. But if I sort me out whilst considering others, then I'm on a winning vibration. So I'm not saying being selfish here. In the general term of being selfish, where I don't care about
to the exclusion of others. Yeah. Well, in English we only have selfish or selfless.
That's right.
But you sacrifice yourself for others, or you sacrifice others for yourself, and the reality is, again, that's that polarization.
Exactly.
There's got to be a middle ground. There's got to be something.
I need to be selfish in terms of making my vibration, my energy processing system higher. So if I'm not feeling good, that's my work. 100% every time, because I'm the only thing going on. So it's only ever my work. It's to say that it's because of, is so futile. It's so ridiculous. I'm not blaming anyone for that. It's just that we're unaware, but I'm the only thing happening. So get on with it. That's what I do now. You know, hey, I don't feel good. What's going on? I need to bring this back up, because when I feel good, life's good. It's got nothing to do with anything. When I feel good, my life's good. So of course my work is to do whatever I can to make me feel good. And the guaranteed way is to be kind, caring, loving, considerate to my environment and to other people. How can I help someone? Because I always can. There's always someone I can help. How can I help someone will always make me feel good. And when I feel good, life becomes abundant for me, because it reflects the vibration of feeling good, becomes more there, more often, and it comes back. You know, I've been trying to make millions of dollars since I can remember, because I was lacking
This
so
time
much.
next year.
Because I was lacking so much self-worth as a child, and because of the system we're in, I interpreted that as, oh, if I make millions, then I'll be worthy. And it's
Also
got nothing.
freedom. Also, you know, money. You know, people talk about financial freedom and to be free, to have enough money to be free.
Not have
But
to.
actually, to get that, you sometimes people sometimes are selling themselves, their souls, you know, their dreams, their passions, in order to get there. And I think that's been quite just again, obviously everything is a reflection of ourselves when we're doing this work. And I always say my clients and me, you know, they always bring my issues to me.
100%. That's why they're there.
And somebody came the other day and it was, you know, they said for the first time they were actually forced to completely stop. So they went on holiday and checking their phone and checking their emails and everything else, and still connected into that. And that complete break where everything was shut down, and then when they thought about going back into it, their whole body reacted. They had a visceral reaction to going back into that, and they realized no, they really couldn't. And they had a passion, and they'd already been kind of developing it and everything else, and they were able to
move over to it.
Just go, no, I'm not doing it, you know. And that's what I'm really interested in is you know, people's experience of this, where how, you know, you see that, and again you see this, people are going, oh my god, this is wonderful, I've got all this time for the first time, and I'm connecting with the family, and I'm cooking great food, and I'm exercising. And someone said, you're either going to come out of this fit or fat. And you know, I just think, and then you've got people. So I was listening to the radio just this morning before I came in, and I thought it was really interesting because this woman had rung in and said, is anyone else having this experience where there's a polarization now in parenting? You know, someone's trying to keep routine and control and everything else, and the other parent's going, just let them be kids, you know. And it's that, and you know, again, I'll be candid, I've got the other way. I'm like, let them be kids. This is not business as usual, trying to keep everything normal. And the way it is such hard work. And children are going, but it's not normal. And children are pure unconscious mind at the end of the day, until they start getting a bit older and they start operating again from the ego and everything else. And you know, the kids are telling us, they're like, this is, you know, they're sort of giving this message of relax, let's just have fun, let's just do what we want to do, let's just, you know, be kids. And when that kind of control is put on them, they are fighting tooth and nail. That's certainly what I see. Really? And just kind of going, okay, what do you want to do? What do you like to do, you know? And for me, you know, the schoolwork, we maintained it, and we got to a certain point and I went, I can't do this anymore. I can't have these battles anymore. And I went, right, I said, I'll tell you what, you pick and choose. What would you like to do? You know, and my younger son, who was the one I was having to work with, he picked the projects, he picked the fun stuff. And we learned through play, and we learned through the projects way more than sitting in and filling in worksheets. And that's my passion anyway, is education and learning and helping people to be the best version of themselves. But I just think if we listen, if we stop, and exactly as you were saying, you know, what's beneath that? What's the purpose? What's this side is wanting to, you know, is worried about our big tribe. This side's worried about our big tribe, and it's all coming from different perspectives. And if we just stop and took a step back and gone, okay, so what's my child telling me? And your child is you. Your child is your mirror.
That's it. And you know what is real about it, because when you're in a righteous stance about anything, you're following a program. So the authentic you, there might be some aspects of you that is interrelated to the righteous stance, but it's a program. When you've got anger and a need for it to be this way and a need to
Sure.
show, you're not in a balanced place. You're not in the heart. So that's what has to happen. So I think that we need to look right now and say, how can I heal me and make my life nice right now? And if you're following that narrative and it gets you upset all the time, then get off the narrative. We've got to pull off the TV. I mean, it is the most incredible, sophisticated brainwashing device that's ever been made. You know, it costs, and now we carry them around with us.
It's an extension. It's an extension of our body.
Exactly. I think it's about £10 million to put a 30-second advert on, or maybe even more, on the World Cup final, football World Cup final. And why would a company pay £10 million? They know damn well that that's going to make them way more money. Then I'm watching the football. I'm not even seeing the advert. And then we've got now kids' games all blowing each other up. Kids on these things, you know, see how easy is it to put subliminal messages on anything? You know, we've got to get off that programming, that device. We've got to spend more time alone. Meditation's key. And it might sound boring, but the future of your reality and the race's reality is dependent on us finding out who we are and making our own life loving and sharing that love with other people. We've got to talk love now. We've really got to start a love. You know, there's that song, I'm talking about a revolution. We've got to change that to a love revolution. I'm talking about a love revolution. We've got to create a revolution of people that say enough already. Let's work on loving each other. You know, I was talking to someone the other day. Imagine where the only rule in any dialogue, whether it's a collective dialogue between two groups or an individual dialogue between two people, is that each partner must feel loved, respected, and understood. And if that's not attained, then we haven't found a solution yet. It's just not.
Something I always say: children will flourish if they feel loved, accepted, and validated for who they are. And if you instead of trying to project yourself onto them, and again, I think children are really, you know, again, are a massive, because they're the newest generation coming in. They're the new consciousness that's sometimes, you know, challenging us, because that's what they're bringing. They're bringing another level in, whether it's playing computer games and having that reaction to it and everything else. But it's to show us, you know, something I really do believe that, because my children are definitely my mirrors. So I just want to end on one thing, which is, and as you're talking, it keeps coming back to me, which is, if you're arguing with someone, you're going head to head.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're having a conversation and a connection, it can only be heart to heart.
Heart to heart. Yeah. And you've got to be able to listen to be with each other. And we can when we're in our heart. You know, we really can. Krishnamurti said, just to end on, he said, children are our greatest teachers. And he said, and I don't say that flippantly, he absolutely meant that. And they really are, because they're more in their heart than we are. We lose it to money's a huge issue for us, because we have to learn how to survive. So we educate to survive as well. If we were to educate as to how to be loving, we would be abundant. How to love each other, how to be abundant in life. We don't learn these things. Why is that? It's just so silly. And we're at a stage in consciousness right now where it's time to love. It's time to love each other. And it's time to accept that, you know, I've got some great friends who completely oppose my belief about what's going on. And so I just don't talk to them about it anymore, because I don't want to lose the friendship. I don't. Because the bottom line is we're all the same. We just have different ways of seeing life. And bottom line is we all love our children. The majority of us do, you know. I think even the evil people who might be abusing children still love their own children, which I'm not condoning their actions at all. But, you know, bottom line, we love our children. We're loving human beings. And as a race of human beings that operate from love, we become the solution to everything. we become the solution in our own life when we start operating from love. But we're, as a collective force of humans that are operating from love, we become the solution. We are the solution, and we will thrive. And I think we're at a point right now where we can take this forward. But we can't if we try to be right in our story, which is what politics is. That politics is just the outer representation of the inner mind. That's all it is. There we go.
Oh, I could talk to you all day, and I really hope that people have got something really powerful from that, because I certainly have. And I'm definitely, as I said, I carried from the last conversation the whole way through, what would love do? Sometimes I forget to ask the question until I'm in a place of real pain. But the question really, really helps. So I think, again, that seeing that we are one tribe, we are one species, and that we're all here to learn something that can really raise us. And I always say, I think, again, it wasn't, I don't think, I know you said it again many, many years ago, which was, we're all on the same ship, and you've got port and you've got starboard, and starboard's trying to blow up port and port's trying to blow up starboard, not realizing that if you blow the other side up, we're all going down.
Exactly.
And I've mentioned that, and I've mentioned, I always credit you with that. For the last nearly 20 years.
Buckminster Fuller that said that. I think so. I can't remember who said that.
But I just think it's such a brilliant, simple way of explaining that, whatever we're doing to other people, we're actually doing to ourselves. There is no separation that way. Whatever we're doing to ourselves, we're doing to other people. So.
And essentially, there's nothing to worry about, Sarah. No matter what happens, you cannot die. No matter what happens.
Well, as I said to you, I remember the meditation. I remember coming out of it, and I just said, whether it's true or not, to lose that fear of leaving this life, was just. It was life-changing. It really was absolutely life-changing, and it meant that I could go forward. I'm not saying I've operated without fear, in my life. I have had fear, but it's not been that. That's not been the fear. My biggest fear now is like, okay, when it's time to go, what will I regret? What will I have not taken the chance to do and not done? And that's always my biggest fear. It's not leaving. It's making sure I've done everything I possibly can with this life, and really made the best of it.
I think that's wonderful, Sarah. I really, really, it's an inspirational thing to hear from my point of view. I don't like to see it as a fear, possibly a driving force of yours, but I think it's absolutely top class that you work from that place, and in the same.
As much as I can, because again, I have to, and it's just experiences are always an opportunity.
You got to let it go as well in the same sense. You've got to let it be that it's okay as well.
It's that paradox, isn't it? It's just that paradox of whatever it is, it is. Exactly. And yet, whatever we think it is as well. So, Mark, as I said, I could talk to you all day, and I'm sure you'll come back on again, won't you?
It's so lovely. I will definitely come back again. It was so lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. And you really were one of the. I was doing it. I know I couldn't keep up with the course. The 21-day abundance. It wasn't the meditations, it was the exercises, and I had to have a look at that to go, well, what was stopping me? But one of the questions was, I think the first thing was it 50 people that have had an impact on you in your personal development, and you were in the top 5. So I have to thank you for I'm blowing your ego up here.
That's really made my day. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull myself back down.
No, but it's absolutely the truth, and I often. When I think of something, and I know you said it, and it had a big impact on me. It was just a real blessing to have met you.
Really kind of you to say. Thank you so much. Really made my day.
And we will definitely chat again soon. Big hug, virtual hug.
Take care. Bye bye.